Hello everybody, welcome to 3D animation using Blender, with Blender rigging animation week 3 with Leon. So really glad that everyone can join us. Want to thank all our partners in this project. We have the Canada Council for the Arts, and we have our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. Remember, you can now check out the iMac digital arts computer stations. We've loaded them all with Blender, so if you don't feel like loading the software, you don't have a computer, a desktop computer, or a laptop at home, no problem. We have you covered. Just come to these libraries. We have 2 stations at each library, so it's all there waiting for you to use. So please check them out. The Blender software, it is free, so you can download it. Just go to blender.org and you can follow along with what Leon's doing. If you've missed any of the previous sessions, weeks 1, 2, and going forward, so week 3 today, week 4 next week, by joining us, you have an online ticket and it has all the weeks on there, so you can rewatch them right when we're done. So that's the really cool part. So yeah, without any further ado, let me pass it over to Leon, and he'll continue this journey on in Blender. Here we go. Here's Leon.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome back to Blender Animation Part 3. Thank you again for coming and following me through this journey with the Blender program. I hope that if you have been following around, I hope it's whatever that I'm doing right now helped you to get started and start working with the program. And yeah, so let's get back to it now. Last week we were talking about the we were touching to in the animation user interface in Blender and how to do a little bit of animation and how to use the rig and how to paint the characters and the rigging and all that stuff. So this week we are going to try to put a full scene, like put it a background, put the characters in it, and start animating with the background and have a final render of like how the final look of the animation will look like. So yeah, if you have been following around since the very beginning, you probably have something similar to this one that we have now, that I have right now, is the building with the lights. So if you don't, then if you want to make your own background, that's fine too. Like, it doesn't have to be the same background. But yeah, so I'm just taking the background from the previous workshop, and I'm going to use this, combine it with a character, and have the character animate in the scene in this background. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, so first thing is, let's close this. And let's open the rigging character. Save. Okay. This is the character that we rig and ready for the animation. As you can see, everything is already properly IK. The constraints is properly set up. Just want to make sure, double check everything's good. Right. So everything's connected. Okay. So everything here is good and is ready to be prepared to be imported. So the first thing, you want to go to object mode, and because my character is separate pieces, my character is built by using separate objects, separate mesh, separate pieces. So I have to select everything here. And then what you want to do, I already did this in here. If you select all your mesh, Okay. So if you right click on that, you have what oh sorry, if you okay, yeah, so oops. If you right click, you have a selection here called Move to Collection, or your shortcut key is M, and then you can make a new collection, right? And like I'm already putting everything into the mesh one, the main mesh here. So once you do that, if you go to the right, the upper right here, you will see the main mesh as a collection. This is kind of like a grouping in other program. So you group all your mesh into one, and then put into one single group. And this is very important to do because that's what we are going to import to our background scene. As you can see here, everything's there. But normally when people when they have a character, either they have everything in one mesh, which is easier. You don't have to worry about selecting every pieces, and sometimes you have multiple mesh like I do here. The main thing is put the mesh, the object into a collection, and then after that we can import it to the other scene. So I did that. So let's open the other scene again. Okay, perfect. So now what we want to do, you go to File on the top here. You want to click Append. So in Blender, in order for you to bring or import your file from other Blender projects, it is always recommended to use Append instead of import. That's just the way like Blender's program work. It make it easier for them to communicate with each other. But if you are working from a different program, let's say like from Maya or something similar other than Blender, then you want to select import in order to bring your other projects from a different program. But within Blender, always use Append here. And then as you can see here, like, so you go to where which file of Blender file that you want to select, which is in here. It's on and then you double click on that file, the .blend. If you double click, and it will open all these folders inside that file. So that folder is essentially everything in Blender file that you have. And obviously collection is one of them. So you want to click on the collection folder, and that's where the where my collection is in main mesh 01. So I will click Append. There you go. So you have your character here imported into this Blender scene. Now, once you do that, let's move that. And let's make sure. Now, like if you notice that once I import it from the other file, just with the collection, it will also bring all the rigging. So that's why you don't have to worry about the rigging. You just need to select your mesh, put it in the collection. But since your bone, your rigging, your armature is already connected to your mesh, you don't really need to group that bone in and put it into the collection, because your mesh will have all that information. So everything here, if you go to pose mode, it should work just like what's intended to. So the rigging and everything, the weight is already supposed to work, and it's ready to animate. Okay, so once we're done with importing the character, we are now going to start animating it. So the first thing before we start animate the character, we have to set the character, resize it, and make sure in the proper size in relation to the buildings. You don't want to have like this huge character beside the building. Like we're not animating a giant, we're animating a proper size human being. So, and if you want to scale, you click on the bone. So you click in the click on the bone here. If you scale it, you scale the mesh as well. So I'm gonna use the door as a reference for the size of the character. So I'm gonna resize it, make sure it's kind of too big. So you want to bring it down again. Bring it up. All right. So that's pretty good sizing. So I want to rotate it in Z 90 degrees. So it's facing forward. So that's rotate Z axis in 90 degrees. Okay, so now we're ready to go animating. Before that, let's go to pose mode and hide all this bone that we don't necessarily need to use. So we just, it's not a clutter look. So that's ready. Let's leave the hand. Okay. All right. Remember, if you want to move the whole your whole character, this bottom here is the main controller to move all the character, right? So make sure you collect that and move it where you need to be. Okay. Pose mode. Okay, before move. Okay. Perfect. Now the next step is to go to the animation. What do you call it again? The layout here, and that will give you. Remember, you have to set up your camera angle first before you do animations, because we want the animation to look good in that specific camera angle. It's different when you're doing game, but for this tutorial purposes, we are doing a movie or TV show. So let's go. Oh, I forgot to start the shortcut. Okay. Go item. The view. the camera to view is to lock the camera so you can move it like you move a normal okay. So what I'm going to do is to have the character sitting on the step, and then he will get up and walk down the stair, and then stop close right over here and just sigh or doing some other pose, something like that. It's just a very simple animation, just to have something. Just you can make it as complicated as you want. Animation. It's also depending on what your scene need to do. Is like before you start doing animation or any movie in general, you have to do the storyboard first, and the storyboard will give you an example of an idea of how the scene will play throughout the movie. So it is very important to do that. But for us to just do a really quick tutorial for this animation here, I have everything's like play out in my head, and it's not really complicated, so I don't really do any storyboard. But it's generally recommended to have the storyboard when you are working with if you want to make your own short films or film, even making a game, you have to have some kind of a storyboard. Easier to do that, easier to put it in a small piece of paper, and if you need to change the angle or anything like that, it's easier to do that when you draw it before you go to your full production value. All right, so let's move this to, is it an object mode? Move it into object mode. Let's have it on the second stair here. And then we go to pose mode, and then we're going to have him sit down. Have the rotate, make sure rotate global, so I can rotate where the bone is needed to be rotated, not using the global positioning. So that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing the posing for the character before I start animating it, before I put it into a full animation mode. So I just want to have the character not sure if you remember what I talked about just last week about the difference between animating using pose to pose or animating straight ahead. What I'm doing right now is a pose to pose animation. So I like to get the pose for the characters properly set up first. A pose to pose always a good way to start animating character. While the straight ahead is really good if you want to create what do you call it again? Oh, effects like a fire or water or a thing like that. So okay, so I want to adjust the camera angle a little bit. So, okay. In movies, films, generally you want the character in a 3/4 angle more than a straight on front angle. So it's always nicer, looks nicer if your angle is a bit tilted. So we want to get away from a 3/4, from a front or side view angle as much as possible when we do the camera. So that where is the camera? I need to see if the camera can. Okay. Okay. This is okay. So that should be good enough to start with. Maybe rotate this. All right. It's good. So now we'll go down here, make sure. Right now, 200. Let's just keep the end of our animation in 250. It's probably going to be shorter than that. It's probably going to be like 150 frame that we needed to do the whole animation. So actually, let's do that right now. Let's put it in 150. You can always change that. And let's put this back into slide 0. And then select all the bone. And then right click, insert keyframe, or I for shortcut key, location, rotation, yes. Because we're not dealing with the scaling, so we don't have to worry about the scale to be so location rotations fix. Now we go to 1, location rotation. You probably wonder why I have the same keyframe with 0, and on 0 frame I have a keyframe, and on the first frame I have the same keyframe. It's because the startup animation is on 1, so, and I like to keep the, what you call it, the beginning pose as the main pose. So if I do need to revert to the main pose, I can always go to frame 0, and then just copy that as a guide. If let's say I need it in frame 20, I mean, I can probably do it in, copy frame 1, but it's just like a habit, I guess. You don't have to do it, but I like to have 2 keyframe just to be safe. It's an odd habit, but that's the way it is. So okay, so let's go back to the animation. This will be the first pose that I will have, and then I want him to get up and then start walking down the stairs to the sidewalk. So the next key pose will be, so maybe about 20 frame. So 20 frame. Yeah, frame 20 will be frame 20 will be when he will start moving and standing. So let's make another keyframe, the same keyframe, and then frame 30 will be when he is starting to get up. So up we go. It's all jumble up. So let's put 0, back this into 0, 0, and 1. That 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, that's the what do you call it again? The number for resetting your pose, resetting your bone to. So if you're moving your bones anywhere, if you want to reset it to the very basic, it's basically 1, 0, 0, 0, and that will set your bone exactly where it started when at the very beginning of the pose. So move this. One, 0, 0, 0. There's a better way to do this, but right now it's just. So, 1. So 0 location. Uh, okay. Looks weird in here, but that's that's okay. All right. So yeah, we got our second pose, which is him standing before he start walking down. So let's click insert keyframe. Now there's another thing that we can do is the camera. Let's see. Oh, there's two cameras. Just camera. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out why I cannot select my camera here, which is really odd. So it's not locked in here. So maybe I just delete this camera. And then Shift A, create a new camera. Empty lights. Where's the camera again? Okay. I get it now. Sorry, my mistake. I'm so confused. Why is it like, okay, so I don't know what's wrong. Good. Because I was in the pose mode in the character. That's why I cannot select the camera at all. That's really what make it really confusing. So you want... Okay. Now that we're in object mode, that's one thing about the Blender. There's so many things that you have to remember that sometimes you just try to figure out why the simple thing like selecting an object is not possible, and then you forgot that you're in edit mode or like in some other mode instead of object mode, then you cannot select anything else. So anyway, so now the camera is selected. I can select the camera. What I want to do is I want to make a keyframe for the camera on the frame 20. And then on frame 30, I want to move the camera. So I will frame the character moving up here, right? That's... And then I'll have location rotation. So the camera is moving as a character going up. Perfect. Now we're gonna go back to the character bone again. We want to go back to the pose mode so we can move the character. So let's have him go down. Whoa, what's going on? That's because we are moving the character down. Oh, sorry, we're still in frame 30. We want to go to, let's say, frame 60. Frame 50, we'll want to have the same frame as frame 30. Sorry, so frame 60 is where we want to have him walk down. We want to have the hip moving, right? Because this is why we want to have less bone than we needed to. So because with just this amount of bones, it's already take a while to do the animation in 3D because there's it's like a puppet animation. Just take a better time to move it where you need to go, and to move frame one, one by one, takes a bit of time. Even though the computer will help you to make the in between later on, but still, like in order to get a proper pose of your animations, is always take a lot of time to do. So you want to get, and to get a proper pose at the very beginning of your animations is very important, because that's the basic of, that's the guide, the basic of all your animation. So if your pose, if you look at the really bad animation out there, you'll see like the posing of the character are so rigid. It's not very good. That's because they don't really spend time posing their character properly, and that is one of the thing in animation that you have to learn if you're really interested doing animation, is just to have your understanding of how to pose your character properly at the beginning. Is similar to how an actor act. You have to understand what the personality of the character, right, before you start acting it out. The same thing with this when you're animating, you need to know what is your character personality, how do they walk, how they move, and that can be done, has to be done before you start doing animation at all. And once you're doing the animation, the posing of how the character is moving is also very important. That's, again, that's a whole different subject, and that you can all get into it more once, if you're interested in the animation side of the Blender. But if you just need to know like a simple animation, then it's not something that you should focus on. All right, so remember, when you posing your character, you need to look in this camera view in order to make something that looks good in this camera view, which is why you always have to have the camera on when you're animating, because this is what you will see in your final render on your cameras, and that is one you want to have looks good. Okay. Well, I think that's okay. So let's select all, location and rotation. Let's see if we can finish the whole posing. Before the workshop end today. Rotate, we want to rotate this way now. We want maybe a bit too much. Forgot to move it to 70. Always move your frame forward. We want to rotate this. Nope. Yeah, it's a bit boring, but that's how you animate in 3D Blender. Unfortunately, that's how we do it. Let's move this back. Okay. Well, that's takes a bit longer than I expected, but that's good. Location rotation. And then let's go to 80, where the other feed will go down. Okay, 1, 0, 0, 0. Scenes. Okay, so I'm spending a little bit more time on the posing, but one thing that I like to do is to go to the graph editor, and then I want to have all this, and the interpolation mode, I like it to be in constant, so I don't see it I don't see the in between right away. So if you play, yeah, there you go. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pose. That's it for today, and I know it takes a bit of time. So next workshop, we're going to in between and have the curve and make sure it's properly. It should be going a lot faster next, because now that the posing is done, now it's just we just need to do a little bit of breakdown, which is in between one pose to the other pose, and to have it walking smoothly. And that is where 3D, digital animation is always good, because you don't really need to do a lot of in between. The computer will already give you an idea for the in between. You just need to tweak it a little bit here and there. All right, and then after that, we're going to try to finish it and put a play blast, and then hopefully we can get everything's rendered in the final look of our little short animation. Okay, thank you again for coming today, and I hope I'll see you next Saturday for our last workshop for this section, and then hopefully you'll get something from this animation workshop today. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Leon. Fantastic.
I'm just gonna give some information. Just put this up here. So if you have any questions, you can email Leon tbmcs@gmail.com. If you have questions about the workshop, or if you've been working on something, you want some feedback, I put my email up as well, tom@tbmcs.ca, if you have any questions about creator space, computers, or tech questions, or anything like that. So feel free to contact us, and we'll make sure that you can get the answers that you're looking for. And I think it'll be really great to see the wrap up of the week 4 next week. And so thanks again to all our partners in making this project happen. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts, and we have our library partners, Blue Bounds Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. So again, computers are available there. We have our digital arts workstations, 27-inch iMacs, loaded with Blender, ready to go. So you can just go in there, watch these links of these replays, and continue exploring and going through this. So again, we'll see you guys next week, and have a great rest of the week. Take care.